Aiden Cato had imagined this moment 100 different ways. Laughter, tears, his mother running to him, his father standing tall, pretending not to cry. Home. But the road ended in silence. No one waited at the doorway. No voices called his name. The front yard stood still under the pale afternoon light, dust hanging in the air like something forgotten. He stepped forward slowly. Something felt wrong. The house wasn't empty. Through the open door, he saw movement, heard voices, pots clinking, strangers talking like they belonged there, like they had always belonged there. Aiden stopped, his breath caught. That wasn't his home anymore, not the way he remembered it. He turned, almost without thinking, his feet moving before his mind could catch up. Around the side of the house, past the broken fence, toward the place no one showed guests. The smell hit first, sharp, heavy, rotting hay and damp earth. Then the sound, a weak rustle, a soft, uneven breath. And then he saw them. His mother sat on the ground, her back against a splintered wooden wall, her wrapper stiff with dirt, color long gone. Her hands rested in her lap, too still, too light. His father lay beside her on torn sacks, his body smaller than Aiden remembered, eyes open but not looking, not really. Aiden didn't move, didn't speak. The world narrowed into that single frame. Two people who once filled his life, now barely taking up space. "Baba," he whispered, no answer. His father's eyes shifted slightly, then dropped, wouldn't meet his. That hurt more than anything. Aiden stepped closer, his legs unsteady, his chest tight, like something inside was cracking but refusing to break. Behind him, laughter echoed from the house. Loud, easy, careless, inside his home. And outside, his parents slept with animals. Aiden Cato did not understand what he was seeing. He stood there, between the house that was no longer his, and the shed that should have never been theirs. His chest rose slowly, fell slowly. Then he turned. Someone had to explain this. He walked back toward the front of the house, his steps steady, but something inside him, shaking. The voices grew louder as he approached. Laughter. Plates, clinking. A life continuing without pause. A woman stepped out, holding a pot. She looked at him, just looked. No recognition, no concern, like he was nothing. "Excuse me," Aiden said, his voice low but firm. "Where are Daniel Cato and Miriam Cato?" The woman hesitated, just for a second. Then her eyes shifted away. "They moved," she said quickly, already turning back inside. Moved. The word felt empty. "Wrong." Aiden stepped forward again. "Where?" he asked, no answer. The door closed, soft, final. He stood there for a moment, staring at the wood like it might open again. Like someone might come out and say this was all a mistake. No one did. So he turned back to the village. People were there. Of course they were. Standing in small groups, talking in low voices, living their quiet, ordinary lives. Aiden walked up to the nearest man. "What happened to my parents?" he asked. The man froze. Not surprised, just still. Then he looked down. "I don't know," he muttered. A lie. Aiden could feel it. He moved to another, a woman this time, older, watching him too closely before he even spoke. "What happened?" he asked again. Her lips pressed together. Silence. Thick, spreading. "One by one," he asked. One by one, they answered with nothing. Eyes turned away. Voices dropped. Conversations died mid-sentence. The village didn't speak. It avoided. It hid. It agreed. Aiden stopped in the middle of the dusty path, his hands hanging at his sides, his heart beating harder now. Not fast. Heavy. They all knew, every single one of them, and still no one said a word. Before the silence, there was Nairobi. Before the broken shed, there was survival. Aiden Cato was just another face in the crowd, easy to miss, easy to forget. Thin shoulders, tired eyes, always moving, always working. Some mornings began before the sun even thought about rising. The air still cold, streets half asleep. He would be there already, lifting sacks of rice onto trucks, one after another, his back burning, his hands raw, no complaints. Just breath, just effort. Other days, he rode a borrowed motorcycle through the city, weaving between cars, dust hitting his face, chasing time for people who never looked at him twice. Faster, they would say. He went faster, because slowing down meant losing, and losing meant hunger. When there was no delivery, no market, no work waiting, he stood outside construction sites, silent, watching, waiting for someone to point. You, come. That was enough. Aiden never refused, not once, because pride didn't fill his stomach, because dignity didn't buy food. But every night, no matter how broken his body felt, he returned to his small room, a narrow space shared with two other men, one bed, one dim light. Walls that held too many stories. He sat on the edge of that bed, quiet, still. Then he reached into his pocket, coins, notes, everything he had left. He spread them out carefully. One pile for rent, one for food, one for emergencies he prayed would never come. And then the smallest pile, always the smallest, for home, for Daniel Cato, for Miriam Cato. Far away from the noise, far away from the dust. In a village that moved slower but carried weight in every breath, Aiden stared at that last pile longer than the others. Every time. Because no matter how hard he worked, it never felt like enough. Daniel Cato never raised his voice. He didn't need to. When he spoke, people listened. Not because he demanded it, but because his words carried weight. Years of working the land had shaped him into something steady. His hands were thick, cracked, strong. Hands that built a life slowly, carefully. Even when that life gave little back, he believed in doing things the right way. Even when no one was watching. Even when it brought no reward. Patience, he would say quietly. It matters. Aiden remembered that voice. Low, certain, unshaken. Miriam Cato was different. She laughed more easily, softer, warmer, even when there was nothing to laugh about, even when the pot was nearly empty. She could take the smallest meal and make it feel like enough, stretching it, turning it into something that filled more than just hunger. She fills space. She fills silence. We may be poor, she would say, her hands moving gently as she served food, but we are not empty. Aiden carried those words with him, always, even in Nairobi, even in the noise, even in the nights when the room felt too small and the future felt too far. He remembered the day he left. The bus was crowded, hot, loud, people pushing, voices rising. His mother stood outside, her hand gripping the edge of her wrapper, trying to stay strong, trying not to cry. His father stood beside her, still, quiet, watching. Aiden stepped onto that bus with nothing but a small bag and something heavier inside his chest. A promise. I will come back, he said, not loud, but real. I will make things better. At the time, it sounded like hope. Something fragile, something distant. Years passed, the promise stayed, but it grew heavier. Because no matter how hard he worked, nothing changed. And every time he called home, his mother said, "We are fine." His father said less, but the silence between his words said everything. The tea tasted like nothing, weak, bitter, almost gone before it touched his throat. Aiden sat on a low wooden bench beside a roadside kiosk, his elbows resting on his knees, his fingers wrapped around the thin glass cup. The city moved around him. Voices, engines, dust in the air, life going on, like always. He stared ahead without really seeing anything, just breathing, just resting for a moment. Then a voice cut through the noise, loud, sharp, excited. A man stood a few steps away, waving a small piece of paper in the air, talking fast. Too fast. A group gathered around him, laughing at first, then leaning closer, listening. Aiden didn't care, not at first. The word drifted over anyway. Lottery. It sounded strange, out of place, like something from another world. A world where people had time to dream. A world where luck mattered more than effort. Not his world. He looked down at his cup again. Empty. The man kept talking. Numbers. Winning. Money. Impossible things. Aiden almost stood up, almost walked away. But he didn't. Something held him there. Not hope. Not belief. Something else. Tiredness. The kind that sits deep in your bones. The kind that makes even foolish ideas feel possible for just a second. He stood slowly, finished the last drop of tea, and walked toward a small stand covered in faded posters. Bright colors that didn't match the dusty street. Promises that didn't match reality. The vendor barely looked at him. How many? The man asked. Aiden hesitated. His fingers moved into his pocket. Coins. Not many. Just enough left after rent. After food. Every coin mattered. He knew that. He should leave. He should walk away. But then a voice. Soft. Familiar. We may be poor, but we are not empty. His mother. Aiden placed the coins on the counter. One. The vendor handed him a ticket without a word. Just paper, nothing more. Aiden stared at it. Light, thin, almost meaningless. He folded it carefully, slipped it into his pocket, and walked away because nothing had changed, not yet. The room was too quiet, no voices, no movement. Just heat hanging in the air, thick and slow. Aiden Cato stepped inside, his shirt damp with sweat, his legs heavy from a long day. Dust clung to his skin. Petrol lingered on his hands. He dropped his small bag beside the bed, sat down. For a moment he did nothing, just breathing, just letting his body exist. Then he remembered the ticket. It had been in his pocket for days, folded, forgotten, buried under work and hunger and routine. He reached for it without thinking, pulled it out, unfolded it slowly. Outside the window, a radio played somewhere down the street. The sound drifted in and out with the dry wind. A voice reading numbers, calm, steady. Aiden barely listened. At first, his eyes moved over the paper. One number. He frowned, looked again, listened. The same number. A small pause, he leaned forward. Second number. Matched. His fingers tightened slightly. Third, his breath slowed. The room felt smaller. Fourth, his back straightened. The sounds outside faded into something distant, unimportant. This, he whispered. No, he checked again. Carefully, slowly, one by one. The fifth number. His hands were no longer steady. The paper trembled slightly between his fingers. He pressed it flat, forced his eyes to focus. Then, the last number came through the radio. Clear. Final. It matched. Aiden froze. Didn't move. Didn't blink. Time stopped. He sat there, the ticket in his hand, his mind refusing to follow what his eyes already knew. This doesn't happen. Not like this. Not to him. He checked again and again, each number perfect, exact, no mistake. The paper changed in his hand. It wasn't small anymore. It wasn't meaningless. It was something else. Something heavy, something dangerous. A door opening without warning. Aiden leaned back slowly, his gaze drifting somewhere far beyond the room. His mother's smile, his father's silence, the house, the promise. What does this mean? He whispered. No answer, only the quiet and the weight growing inside his chest. Aiden Cato told no one, not his roommates, not the men he worked beside, not the friends who shared his silence at the end of long days. No one. The ticket stayed folded, hidden, pressed deep inside a small cloth pouch beneath his bed, like a secret that could break if it touched the air. He still woke before sunrise, still carried sacks, still rode through dust and noise. Nothing changed on the outside, but inside everything had shifted. He moved more carefully now, spoke less, watched more, because this wasn't just money, it was something else. A chance, a risk, a door that could close as quickly as it had opened. At night, when the room finally went quiet, Aiden would sit alone on the edge of his bed, his hands resting still on his knees. Not counting coins anymore, not dividing small piles, just thinking. His mother's voice, soft, steady. We may be poor, but we are not empty. His father's silence, heavy, honest. He saw them clearly now. Not as memories, not as voices on the phone, but as they were, tired waiting, still holding on. Aiden closed his eyes, then opened them again. I will go home, he said quietly. The words didn't feel like hope. They felt like something stronger, something grounded. He didn't want attention, didn't want noise. This wasn't about returning as someone important. This wasn't about showing what he had gained. It was about restoring what had been lost. Piece by piece, carefully. He began to prepare. Simple clothes, nothing new, nothing bright. Small items chosen with care. Fabric his mother would like. Tools his father could use. Not expensive, not obvious, but meaningful. He avoided anything that would draw eyes, because this wasn't about wealth. It was about dignity. On his last night in Nairobi, Aiden sat by the window, the city humming softly in the distance. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to imagine. Not survival, not struggle, something else. Peace. And this time, it didn't feel impossible. The road home felt familiar, too familiar. The bus rattled over uneven ground, dust rising behind it in soft clouds. Aiden sat by the window, his hands resting still in his lap, his small bag at his feet. The city had faded hours ago. Now there was only open land. Quiet, wide, endless. He watched it pass, field after field, tree after tree. each one pulling something deeper from inside him, closer, closer, home. His chest felt tight but not heavy. Something else, hope, the kind that moves slowly, carefully, like it doesn't want to break. When the bus finally stopped, the air felt different, cooler, softer, slower. Aiden stepped down. The ground beneath his feet didn't move. For a moment, he just stood there, breathing, listening. Goats somewhere in the distance, wind brushing through dry grass, voices carried low and far. Everything looked the same, but something wasn't. He adjusted the strap on his shoulder and began to walk. The path was narrow, dusty, worn by years of footsteps. His footsteps. People noticed him, not loudly, not openly, but he saw it. A woman paused mid-sentence as he passed. A boy slowed, staring too long. Two men near a well lowered their voices, their eyes shifting away. Aiden gave small nods. Some nodded back, others didn't. The closer he got, the quieter it became. Not empty, heavy. Like the silence knew him before he arrived, like it had been waiting. His steps slowed, without him choosing to slow them. He turned the final bend. The house came into view. His house, and he stopped. Smoke rose from the cooking area. Voices drifted out, laughter. Not his mother's, not his father's, unfamiliar, wrong. Aiden took one step forward, then another. His eyes fixed on the doorway, trying to make sense of something that didn't fit, that couldn't fit. But it was real. It was there. And it didn't belong to him anymore. Come. The voice was low, careful. Aiden Cato turned. An old man stood a few steps behind him, shoulders slightly bent, eyes shifting toward the house, then back again. It was Mr. Otieno, a neighbor, someone who had watched him grow. Aiden didn't speak. He just followed. They walked past the compound, past the place that should have been safe. The ground grew rough under his feet. The air changed. Thicker, heavier. The smell came first. Sharp, rotting, mixed with something damp and forgotten. Aiden slowed. No, he whispered, but he kept walking. Because he already knew. The structure appeared ahead, crooked, leaning, barely standing. A cowshed, old wood, broken roof, patches that couldn't cover what was inside. Mr. Otieno stopped. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. Aiden stepped forward, one step, then another. His heart didn't race. It pressed, hard, heavy, each beat louder than the last. And then he saw them. His mother sat against the wall, her body wrapped in a cloth that had lost its color long ago. Her head lowered slightly, her hands resting in her lap. Too still. Too light. Beside her, his father, lying on torn sacks, thin, smaller than memory allowed, his shoulders no longer strong, his presence no longer filling the space. Aiden couldn't breathe. The world narrowed. Everything disappeared except that image, his parents, reduced, surrounded by dirt, by animals, by a life that felt less than human. Mama, he said. The word broke before it finished. Her head lifted slowly. Her eyes found his. Recognition. Shock.
Something deeper.
Aiden, she whispered. He dropped his bag, moved fast now, kneeling beside her, his hands trembling as he reached for her. Her skin was cold. Too cold. What is this? He asked. His voice no longer steady. What happened? His father turned his head slightly. Their eyes met. Then he looked away. That silence cut deeper than anything else. Aiden's chest tightened, anger rising, not loud, cold, sharp. Who did this? He demanded. His mother shook her head weakly. Please, not now, she said. Not now. Aiden stared at her, at the fear in her eyes, and for the first time, he understood. This wasn't just poverty.
This was something worse.
Something chosen. Victor Cato did not look surprised. He sat at the wooden table inside a house that used to belong to Aiden's parents, eating slowly, calmly, like nothing in the world had changed. Like nothing had been taken. Aiden stood at the doorway, still, watching. The room felt familiar and wrong at the same time. The walls, the table, the light coming through the window. All the same, but not his. Uncle? Aiden said. The word felt heavy. Victor looked up, just for a moment, then leaned back slightly, his expression settling into something controlled. Something measured. You have returned, he said. No warmth, no welcome. Aiden stepped forward. My parents are living in a cowshed. Silence. Victor nodded once. Yes, just that. Aiden's hands tightened at his sides. Why? Victor placed his spoon down carefully. There were complications, he said. The land, the house. Your father could no longer manage things properly. Aiden took another step.
So you took it.
Victor's eyes sharpened slightly. I did what was necessary.
For who?
Aiden asked, his voice low now, controlled. For the family, Victor replied. The words hung in the air, empty, cold. Aiden felt something shift inside him. They are your family, he said, and you left them to live with animals. Victor didn't look away. They are alive, he said, a pause. That is more than some can say. The calmness of it hit harder than anger. Aiden stared at him, searching for regret, for discomfort, for anything human. There was none, only certainty, only calculation, and something else, confidence. Like he believed this was finished, like nothing could touch him. Aiden took a slow breath. This is not over, he said quietly. Victor leaned back again, a faint smile touching his lips. It already is. Aiden held his gaze, then turned, walked out. Behind him, the house remained still, untouched. But inside him, something had changed. This was no longer confusion, no longer shock. This was something else, something colder, something that would not end quietly. Aiden Cato did not confront anyone the next day. He watched, quiet, still, present. The village woke slowly, brooms brushing dust from doorways, goats calling in the distance, low voices rising with the sun. Life continued, like nothing had happened, like two people had not been pushed out of their home and left behind a broken wall with animals. That was the first thing he understood. This was not chaos, this was order, a silence built on agreement. Aiden moved through the village with calm steps. He greeted people, asked simple questions, nothing direct, nothing sharp. And still he saw it, eyes shifting, voices lowering, answers that never fully came, fragments, pieces, enough. By mid-morning, the shape of it began to form. His uncle had not acted alone. That was clear. There were others. Names that appeared more than once. Men who stood close to power. Men who spoke carefully. Men who were suddenly important. Aiden stored everything in his mind, carefully. Then he reached the edge of the village, the small school. Children's laughter broke through the weight like something untouched, pure, unaware. He stopped, watched. You are Aiden, aren't you? He turned. A young woman stood behind him, holding a stack of worn books, straight posture, clear eyes, but cautious. Lena, she said, I teach here. Aiden nodded slowly. I remember you. She gave a faint smile. And you were not always this quiet. For a second, something lighter passed between them. Then it disappeared. You saw your parents, she said. Yes. A pause. I tried to speak, she continued, when this began. Aiden's attention sharpened. What happened? They told me to stop, she said. Said I did not understand village matters. And you stopped? He asked. She met his eyes. I was made to. That was enough. She knew. You saw something wrong, Aiden said. Yes. Then tell me. Lena hesitated. This is not simple, she said. There are people involved, not just here. Aiden didn't look away. I am listening. She studied him, then nodded.
There is a road project,
She said quietly. If it happens, this land becomes valuable. Aiden felt it click, and my parents wearing away. The truth settled, heavy, clear. This wasn't family. This was strategy. Her breathing changed first. Shallow, uneven, wrong. Aiden Cato saw it the moment he stepped back into the shed. The air felt heavier than before. Too still, too quiet. Mama, he called softly. No answer. She lay on her side, her body barely moving, her chest rising in small, broken breaths that didn't match the rhythm of rest. Aiden dropped to his knees. His hand reached for hers. Cold, too cold. Mama, can you hear me? He said, his voice tightening. Her eyelids fluttered, didn't open. Beside her, his father sat stiff, his usual silence replaced by something else. Fear. She has been like this, Daniel said quietly. Since you left. Aiden's chest clenched. No more waiting. No more watching. We take her now, he said. His voice was different. Firm. Final. With what money? His father asked. The question cut through everything. For a second, Aiden did to answer, then something inside him shifted. Not careful. Not hidden. Necessary. I will handle it, he said. He stood, already moving. They lifted her together, gently, carefully. Her body felt too light, like something had been taken from her piece by piece over time. They stepped out into the open. People saw. They always saw. But no one moved. No one spoke. Aiden didn't look at them. He didn't need to. He already knew. They reached the road. The motorcycle stood there again, waiting, watching. Aiden's voice cut through the air. I need help. One man stepped forward. Without hesitation, I will take you. Within moments, they were moving. Fast, dust rising behind them, wind pressing hard against Aiden's face. But he felt none of it. His arms held her steady. Mama, stay with me, he whispered. No response, only breath, fading. The hospital came into view. Aiden didn't wait. He ran. Help, he shouted. Doors opened, hands moved, voices called. She was taken inside, gone from his arms. The hallway fell silent, too silent. A doctor stepped out minutes later. She is very weak, he said. Exhaustion, dehydration, long neglect. Aiden swallowed. Will she recover? The doctor paused. If she gets proper care, Aiden nodded once. I will pay. The words came out clean and easy. And for the first time, everything changed because the line had been crossed. There was no more hiding, no more waiting. This was no longer just about truth. This was war, and Aiden was ready.